not ever.
Let there be 1,000 losses, blurbs.
No forced redundancies.
You sit down, Wilfred. You sit down.
If you like what you hear, you can show us some love too. Follow our socials on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok and YouTube, and subscribe to the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to us on right now.
Well, hi everyone. There's been so much talk about housing affordability lately, and so many people have contacted me with their own stories about their struggles with paying the rent, saving for a deposit, wanting to buy a house, trying to buy a house, watching prices go up. I thought we'd jump on with Meaghan, our housing spokesperson, and just try to unpack some of what's been going on, because it really is quite incredible what's happened in Queensland and particularly the southeast the last 12 months, but we're right across the state really.
Yeah. It's crazy at the moment, house prices. The on the Gold Coast, which is where I live, rents are now more expensive than Sydney.
Yeah.
And in a single year, house prices across the state have increased by nearly 11%. So it's just more and more unaffordable for people to be able to get into the housing market, which is really, really concerning, I think, for a lot of people.
And they're predicting another 11% the next year.
Yeah, which is, I don't know how you can buy a house if you're a frontline worker or a young person. It's just out of reach for a lot of people.
It is a crazy acceleration.
Yeah.
And so talking to people, well, actually, this isn't just how it feels, it's actually true.
Yeah.
The longer you spend saving, the price of houses actually goes up faster than you can possibly save.
Yeah.
So you're further behind than when you started.
Yep. And there's so many, I get so many emails and speak to so many young people who just feel like just when you think that you might be able to get there, it just gets even worse. So, and I think the frustration I have is that the government is doing things that are actively making it worse. I think everyone acknowledges that it's difficult to solve the housing crisis overnight, but I think we all acknowledge that there's lots of different pressure points, but to make kind of reckless decisions that make that worse, that add fuel to the fire, is what I think frustrates a lot of young people and working Queenslanders who, I don't know how you put enough money away if you're paying all of these increased rent amounts. It's just insane.
And we'll get to the things they've done in a minute, but first of all, the question is increasing house prices good or bad? Everyone who is in the market feels good when they see that the value of their house price has gone up, but then I think lots and lots of people now are seeing friends who want to buy houses, or their kids are getting older and they're thinking about the situation they'll be in, whether they'll be able to live anywhere near their family. I think people are starting to get a bit more circumspect about whether this is really a good thing to see prices going up that much.
And I think the problem is that prices are going up beyond what people's wages are going up by. If it was kind of proportionate to all of those other, your wage versus all of those other costs, then maybe that would be okay. But it's just so out of step with what people can actually, what they're earning versus what they're paying. There was a report that came out that I think said nurses were paying about 40% of their income on rent. And so, that vulnerability index is just getting worse and worse, which makes it harder to break into the market. I mean, I think we ideally want to see that those increases stabilise a bit and see more affordable houses enter into the market, because that's the real, it's all well and good adding lots of luxury homes, and we do need more housing supply, but if you're not adding more affordable housing supply, it's not really addressing the problem.
And it's pretty well established that 30% is that threshold that if you're paying more than that, you're in housing stress.
Yeah. And police, nurses, teachers, all of those people are paying more than 30% based on all of the data that's coming in at the moment. So how do people live in Brisbane or the Gold Coast or the Sunshine Coast or anywhere really in Queensland if that's how much money you're having to pay in rent? And then how do you send your kids to sport and all of those other things?
Yeah, so I want to get into that question of the kinds of houses we're building, because a lot of people think it's just about supply, and if you increase supply, you'll bring down prices, but it's also about the kinds of homes you're building, right? How do you create supply at an affordable level?
It's a good question. And as a former planning minister, you did some really good things. I think there's a number of different ways you can do it. One of them is by conditioning particularly big development areas. In Queensland, we call them priority development areas, by saying, we want to make sure that a proportion of that is a mix of social and affordable and private, but requiring that on those sort of developers and our public developer EDQ, and hopefully our public builder works in as well with them. But that's one way. You can condition it under the law. You can also just invest in affordable housing, which is what we were doing through the Housing Investment Fund, which is basically working with community housing providers and not only building those homes, but also basically paying a subsidy to make it affordable, so that frontline workers and low income earners can actually afford to live and are only paying about 30% of their income in rent. So there are kind of different ways that you achieve affordable housing. To your point though around supply, I think we need more of everything, but when you don't have those affordable homes coming into the market, and we've got massive labour shortages, like just not enough tradies to build homes, when they're all just building luxury homes and not affordable homes, it kind of doesn't help everyday Queenslanders.
Yeah, that's what it's also about, making sure they're building not just 3 and 4 bedroom, 2 bathroom, 2 car park places, in places like the city,
design.
making sure there's 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom, options like that.
Yeah. And
which we're not seeing coming online at the moment.
No. Well, that's one of the reasons why we tried to make some changes around secondary dwellings, and there was a area in the Gold Coast, disused golf course, which we tried to say you should, you can build there on the condition that there's affordable housing, and we're gonna, we're actually not just going to say this is the maximum height, we're going to say this is the minimum. This is the minimum amount of homes we want you to build, because that then made those homes more affordable by design, by making them, taking away some of those unnecessary things that we don't necessarily need, but it just makes that home overall more affordable to build, and then obviously to rent or to buy.
And especially in places that are well serviced by public transport, infrastructure, schools, hospitals, that kind of thing.
Definitely, yep.
And so median house price in Brisbane's now 1.17 million?
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah. And
the Gold Coast is bad, the Sunshine Coast, I don't know how, it's really difficult for people to be able to save enough when they're paying 40% of their income on rent to then buy at a price point like that. The fact that that's the median price, it's not good.
And it's getting worse.
Yeah.
And the LNP government, the Christopher government, have made a bunch of decisions recently that will only make it worse, really. Take us through some of them.
So the big thing that they've done is remove affordable housing conditions on big development areas, which we think is really irresponsible, obviously. They've also just cancelled projects. So, interestingly, in the Deputy Premier Jared Blai's electorate, he thought there was too many many affordable homes right near a hospital being built. And so he actually cancelled an already approved project, which is the first time that's ever happened. They also basically cancelled a whole range of other projects, one in Arundel in the Housing Minister's electorate. He actually campaigned against that, which is kind of crazy that we have a Housing Minister whose whole campaign was centred around blocking affordable housing. And in the Redlands, which is where their Assistant Housing Minister also lives, they cancelled a project that we had given the green light to there. Again, all of those had to have so they were working with the private sector, and we basically said to them, we're willing to let you get a quick approval from the state government on the condition that at least 15% of those homes are genuinely affordable, and we'll give you, we'll turn that around quickly. So we gave the green light to a number of those projects, and a number of them have been cancelled, and now a whole lot more are just sitting on the Deputy Premier's desk and nothing's happened. So he's had those projects for over a year. There's about 30,000 homes that could be unlocked right now, but because they've got some ideological problem with affordable housing in their own electorates, nothing's happening. So,
and then they've identified a bunch of state-owned land, so land Queenslanders own at the moment, and instead of putting affordable homes on there, they're giving it to developers to build luxury homes.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So on one hand, they're saying we want to sell public land for private developers to make lots of money with no affordable housing, and then when they've got private land where developers are just willing to build affordable homes on it, they're saying no. It actually doesn't make any sense. But we have a bill right in the Parliament today that allows developers to donate, and so, yeah.
There's something in that.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep. And in big precincts like Karulpura and the Gabba, where we had plans for there to be a lot of affordable homes, because we're building a brand new train station at the Gabba, for example, that they're taking away those requirements, so they'll again just be 1.5 million plus.
Yep. And what's crazy is the Brisbane City Council at the time, I think, advocated to you to put in place those social and affordable housing conditions, and now the LNP are in and they've removed them. But interestingly, the Brisbane City Council LNP team have gone very quiet, which is a bit weird.
I haven't said as much.
Yeah.
And so, like, the impact of this is kind of ripples through, doesn't it? So, people who own investment properties want to see a rental return that reflects what it's now valued at, so they put rents up, and so rents are higher, it makes it even harder to save, and price of housing is kind of the core of the affordability problem, because for most of us, the first bill we pay is our income tax, because they take that out before they give us the money, and then the second one we pay is housing costs. And what's left goes to taking care of the kids and buying food and going to the movies.
And that's the thing. I think it's difficult for a lot of people at the moment. Some of the obviously the RBA. There's lots of decisions that we know are making it more difficult for everyone. I think the frustration I have is that there is clearly a supply and demand issue, and we're not adding the right types of supply to the market that would help people,
rents go up, it kind of affects everyone, but then the most vulnerable get squeezed completely out of the market, or too far away from work or study, and so we see big increase in the number of people applying for social housing and public housing. Those lists have gone up.
Well, the social housing list is blown out by 10,000 people in 1 year. So, and that's at the same time that the government actually removed 10,000 people off the list, because each year the government looks at the list and for a variety of different reasons, people's names might be removed. Some of those people might have got housing. A lot of them, though, might not be eligible anymore, and the government hasn't changed the income limit and is refusing to do so, which we think should probably be looked at least.
So on the income limit, so 2 pensioners in a home are above the income limit.
So they are not eligible
in
Queensland.
You have to be earning less than the age pension.
And so some of those people may have just tipped over the threshold and barely earning anything, and they've now been removed off the list and likely won't be able to afford anywhere in the private market, and they'll be homeless, possibly. And the crazy thing now is that despite the fact that they're not eligible for social housing and may be living in a tent tonight, they won't be eligible for emergency accommodation either, because the government changed the rules. So there's just a whole lot of really cold decisions that have been made.
There's another one I want to touch on, which is, so the government made a big deal about there being some people in public housing who also owned a home. But what they didn't say was they will almost always be women escaping domestic violence with their kids who still own half of the house that they've escaped from. And they're now not eligible. They'll get kicked out.
There's a lot of demonising going on at the moment of people on the social housing waiting list and in social housing, and the government sort of just putting out figures and claims that don't articulate the full circumstance of what's actually happening.
So speaking of demonising, let's talk about homeless people. Because there's been a bit of demonising there too.
There's been a lot of really bad commentary from some LNP members about people experiencing homelessness. I think it was the member for Mackay who said that they were ruining his...
He couldn't enjoy his fish and chips.
And then the member for Burleigh saying some really offensive things. Like, there's so many horrible remarks that have been made by LNP members about people who are just really struggling at the moment. And they seemingly want to take an approach where they want to lock people up rather than just provide people with housing and
house.
support, which just costs the taxpayer more money in the end and is really inhumane. It's awful.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think we might do an episode with some homelessness providers to just start to talk to people about how complicated it is, because it's not as simple as getting. By the time someone has fallen out of housing altogether, then they have much more complicated issues to you know.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing. If you're experiencing homelessness, it makes everything so much harder, and so it's kind of unsurprising that sometimes exacerbates other issues for people. One of the things I'm actually really proud of at the Labor Party in the past about was building the Common Ground in Brisbane, which was like just a great project, and it was meant to be one of many, but then the Abbott government came in and the rest of them didn't get built. But it's a great model where it's not just housing. They provide a whole lot of that wraparound support for people who have kind of been long-term rough sleepers who just need a bit of extra help beyond just a home.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing I think we need more of.
So it's not just in the southeast though, like right across regional cities and towns, we've seen these similar issues, but with some different factors involved.
Yeah.
This is a DM I got last night, and I'll read it out to you and you know, get what you think. It says, I'm 24 years old and I'm writing because I honestly don't know how people like me are meant to get ahead anymore. I've worked full time, lived with my parents for the past 2 years and saved extremely hard to build a deposit. As a financially single person, I've been approved for a $350,000 home loan, which I genuinely believed would be enough to buy a modest first home in a regional area. From the Atherton Tablelands, a small regional community, yet even here basic homes are selling for $700,000 to $800,000. My options feel impossible. I can either move 2 hours away from my job to somewhere isolated with no services, or I can buy an 800 square metre block of land and then have no money left to actually build a house. I'm doing everything that's been asked of my generation, working full-time, saving, sacrificing, living at home, and still can't see a realistic pathway to home ownership. I'm not asking for luxury, just a secure place to live in the community I grew up in.
Yeah.
We get so many messages like that.
Yeah. And I think that last point is bang on. Like people, I remember a while ago, there was commentary about young people just need to stop having avocado on toast and they'll be able to afford to buy a home. Like that's not. It is just getting harder for young people to enter the market, and so many people aren't looking for luxury. They just want their first home, and so there are a lot of challenges though in regional Queensland in particular. Like I think obviously it's sometimes more difficult to get access to tradies in those communities, particularly the more remote and regional you get. You know, the weather in regional Queensland can be really difficult. It's one of the reasons why I think modular housing is a really is one of many things that government should be looking at, because you can just build homes in a factory, get them on a truck and get them out, you know, pretty quickly. We probably don't have the scale that we need yet in Queensland to make them affordable, and that was one of the things we were trying to do in government, was do bulk orders of those modular homes for public and government employee housing. But it's a real challenge, not just in the southeast, particularly in regional Queensland as well. We need more, you know, frontline workers in regional Queensland, and so if we don't have houses for people, then how do we attract more nurses to some of our regional hospitals? It's a real problem.
I think watching this play out in different states gives us some ideas about things we can and should do. You know, prices haven't gone up in Melbourne and LA as much as they have here. They were kind of ahead of the curve there. New South Wales government is doing a lot now to try to address what's become really, you know, a crisis there. You know, nobody doing the work in Sydney can afford to live anywhere near Sydney. Take us through some of the things New South Wales is trialling, like the design book and things.
So New South Wales, they've got a design pattern book where they basically say, you know, if you want to build, it basically just streamlines the process and hopefully makes it cheaper for people if you pick up that pattern book and you can then go and get that house built because you've saved that cost.
So you can have the design for $1, I think. And if your design matches the book, you get an approval in a week or 2
very
weeks
quickly.
or something.
I can't remember exactly, but
Yeah.
very quickly, yeah. Which is kind of similar-ish to what we were trying to do with granny flat secondary dwellings as a starting point. To some degree, not quite exactly the same, but that seems like a really smart thing to do. They've also done some work around just kind of upzoning particular areas that are well located near public transport, which is really sensible. I just think, Australians and Queenslanders want to see governments intervene and get more involved. Clearly there's a problem, and so we should be pulling every lever, and it's kind of not what's happening now in Queensland. They're kind of doing the opposite of that and winding back things that would intervene in the market to increase housing supply, but particularly affordable housing supply.
And they've had some pushback in New South Wales, the NIMBY campaigns, wealthy folk who don't want to see additional supply or less well-off people living around.
But Chris Means and Rose Jackson have been really strong on this, which is really good.
And they've got the support of, they've got a YIMBY movement now too, people saying yes in my backyard.
Yeah.
And they're submitting to planning approval processes and doing all that sort of thing.
Which we kind of have one in Queensland. I don't think it's I think because of the actions taken by the New South Wales government, it's really mobilised that group. So it would be great in Queensland for that group to grow, because I just think, politicians need support to make sometimes some of these what are seen as controversial decisions but are in the greatest good.
It can be really easy politics for politicians to just... Yeah.
Because you get, I had pushback when I was the Housing and Planning Minister, you would have too, where people go, I don't want that housing here, or there's too many homes, or what about the road infrastructure, and all of those are legitimate issues, but if you can resolve those issues, then there should be no opposition to that housing. Some people, and I think this is a minority, I think the majority of Queenslanders totally get we need more social and affordable homes. Some people don't like affordable homes in their backyard because they might be critical of the types of people who need those homes, and politicians need to be brave and say everyone deserves a home. My parents grew up in public housing. People in public housing are good people. They deserve affordable homes.
This 30% rule, we can use that as a guide. So say a teacher or a nurse or a police officer, what kind of price point we'd be looking at? 750k, 800k, and lots of people are paying more than that.
A lot of people are paying way more than 30% of their income, but affordable is meant to be you pay 30%, or ideally possibly less than that. But it's in the planning regulations. It actually has a definition in Queensland. It's just not being enforced at the moment
because of just the sheer amount of feedback we've got from people that housing affordability really is the number one issue for them. It's going to be a real focus for us this year. So thanks for helping us kickstart the year with a bit of an explainer on what's been happening, but we're really going to hone in on housing affordability.
It's a big issue.
It really is. So if you've got thoughts, we'd love to hear from you, and I think we'll try and jump on the podcast a few times throughout the year, just with different experts exploring all of the different components.
Not now, not ever.
Let there be 1,000 losses, blue.
No forced redundancies.
You sit down, Wilfred. You sit down.